everyone, welcome back to Voidheart Studios, and today I'm going to be doing another super nostalgia review. A nostalgia review is where I take an altered review format and put it against a discontinued blaster to still see if it has a little bit of potential in the current day. Now how that nostalgia review becomes super is I take that same format and I put it, instead of just a discontinued blaster from any era, and focus that a little tighter and specifically talk about a vintage blaster. Basically a blaster before the end Stryke era, with a specific focus on blasters from the 90s. And today, I'm going to be talking about the Nerf Stryke StrongArm. The StrongArm was released in 1996 as part of the Nerf Stryke gear series, and it is a spring-powered slam-fire-only blaster that mounts to your arm. This blaster was made by Kenner as well. I can't really properly strap into this blaster except up here at the front, because my hands are too big for the Velcro straps. But, yeah. Because my arm is too big for the rear Velcro strap. But yeah, let's start up at the front and talk about do the overview. Starting up at the front, you have the barrel unit. This blaster has 2 barrels, and it does fire out of these barrels, but it doesn't fire out of them simultaneously. It's not a shotgun. It has this little blue knob on top of the blaster that switches between barrels every time you fire. This barrel unit can also be folded back and hooked under the priming handle to keep it kind of stowed away until you absolutely need it. Though when the priming handle gets ever so slightly bumped, it flips out. So, whatever. You take your ebbs with your flows. Going back from there, you have, of course, this button, which goes to the grip. The grip of this blaster also folds back and braces against your arm. And this little switch is the latch release for that, so it pops back forward into place for you to hold on to. Going back from there, you have the priming handle. This is how you prime and fire the blaster. To prime the blaster, you pull it back, and then to fire the blaster, you push it all the way forward, and it fires when the priming handle gets to the forward position. And of course, you use that knob to switch the barrel, and do it again. And now you have fully fired the StrongArm. And at the very back of the blaster, you have 2 little bits of dart storage, which like to crimp vintage mega darts, so yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take these on out of there. And underneath the dart storage, you have the rear Velcro strap, which corresponds to the front Velcro strap. The front Velcro strap wraps around the palm of, or the front face of your knuckles, and the rear Velcro strap is supposed to go around your arm. But I have this little issue of the fact that my arm is too fat. And even if I pulled this entirely out and opened it loose and tried to wrap it around my arm, it probably still wouldn't go all the way and lock. I need to get some elastic Velcro strips and restrip this and my roto track so they can actually attach to my arm. Alright, that's it for the overview. Now let's take it out to the range and play with it. Alright, we are out on the range, with the StrongArm. And it's hot out here. You're getting a little bit of a cool breeze, but it's July in North Texas, so gotta have a little bit of suffering to have success. But let's get on with the firing demo. Starting off, we got vintage mega darts. Nah, whatever. And next, we've got some Nerf N1 darts. Just because they fit and they seal, and why not? Damn. Hold on. I want to get an actual there we go. I hit the target. Alright, that concludes the firing demo for the StrongArm. Let's go back inside and talk about it. Alright, we're back inside with the StrongArm. Let's talk about it. Starting off with the practicality stuff, I was not able to chronograph this blaster as it just doesn't get chrono readings for some reason with my current chronograph. But considering its performance in the firing demo, it most likely fires about as strong as the auto grip, which the auto grip fired about 38 FPS on average. Ladies. Of course, you have your ammo compatibility issue, in which this thing, in which it is unintentionally, hold on, to where it is unintentionally cross-compatible with N1 darts. So there is that. I'm going to fire the other dart. But this blaster, like all other vintage Mega Blasters, can be re-barreled using 1/2-inch CPVC and electrical tape. It's that simple. So then it can shoot modern darts better. I can actually go talk about my auto grip results. I re-barreled my auto grip today, and it was firing 38 FPS with Vintage Mega, and is now firing 64 FPS with Dart Zone Waffle Head darts. So yeah, pretty substantial upgrade when you re-barrel this. The other thing about practicality is what this blaster is supposed to function as. It's supposed to be a gauntlet-mounted blaster, which folds out of the way to allow you to easily utilize other blasters or your hands. Like I did with the auto grip, we're doing the skewer test. And this actually passes the skewer test with better results than the auto grip. Because the auto grip, you had to worry about the priming handle coming out and interfering with certain things like how you grip the blaster and how you do other things, like so. But since this one can rest on your main hand, and it doesn't have anything big jutting way out where your palm is, you can use it with other blasters pretty easily. And of course, to get back into your firing position, you pull back slightly on the priming handle and press this button, which will then deploy the barrels and grips. Barrels and grip, singular. It has one grip. Back into place. The grip isn't particularly comfortable, but for something that's going to stay stowed most of the time, I don't really mind anyway. Now let's talk about my opinion. As with pretty much all the vintage blasters I own, I really enjoy using this blaster. It is a very fun to use blaster, and I love the Stryke series a lot because they all have really unique gimmicks. Even among vintage blasters, they have really unique gimmicks, because there's not many other vintage blasters that actually attach to your body and have these like deploying like spy gear features on them that are just so fun to fidget with. And this blaster is pretty compact for a gauntlet blaster. I mean, it could be bigger, it could be longer, it could have a lot more bulk to it. But it's actually fairly small when you take it off of your hand. It's pretty thin. Now, of course, folded back, it's even smaller and kind of looks like a spaceship. Yeah. I don't really have much to say that I haven't said about another vintage blaster already. I do think the power is a little lower than even I would want out of something that's this big. The one reason why I gave the auto grip a pass on its super subpar performance is the fact that it was even smaller than this, and it was deployable. This one's just kind of always sitting on the back of your hand. And especially if you bump this particularly, there go your barrels. Your barrels are now out and, you know, even more forward and even more out in front of your hand. So it is a bit bigger and a little more cumbersome than the auto grip. But it's still a very welcome part of my vintage arsenal. Now, let's do my favorite segment, and hopefully yours, speculation. What if I was put in the heels of John Hasbro and charged with designing a modern version of the StrongArm? Well, I'd make it not slam fire. I would still keep the locking back functionality, but I would, instead of having it kind of, you get the spring kind of wedged under the priming handle, and like, I mean, even then you can just go a little further and wedge it under this button, so the button that deploys the grip also deploys the barrels, but you have to do that with two hands to be able to do it easily. So it's a lot easier to just put it under the priming handle. This may be how it was meant to be stowed away. I honestly don't actually know. That might be how it's done. I may be stupid. But anyways, it's difficult to stow away properly, and it's a bit bigger and a bit more of a blaster to deal with than the auto grip, but it's a very fun blaster, and I do enjoy it. But yeah, sorry. Ah, my brain. My brain really screwed up there. But yeah, if I were making Defender 2.0, I would make it a smart AR, get rid of this, so that way I could just go wha-bam, wha-bam, and maybe give it 4 barrels instead of 2, 4 or 5 barrels. And then, I don't know if I want a slam fire or just a better slam fire, maybe some sort of T-pole, or a trigger on the grip or something. But if it were to be slam fire, I would rather it fire on the back pole, like the Rototrack or the Aerostorm, rather than having to slam it forward. Because then slamming it forward knocks it up and messes with your accuracy, because it shifts your whole arm. But aside from that, it is still a very fun blaster, and I enjoy using it. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, all the other YouTube content creator jargon, and comment, once again, your favorite Cyberstrike blaster. And I will see you all in the next one. And until then, take care.